Yo, what's going on, everybody? So, I want to go ahead and get the obvious elephant in the room out of the way, which is why in the world are you reviewing One Piece from the very beginning? How in the world have you not read One Piece before now? It's like the best manga in the whole world. That's what a lot of people say. And I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I know a couple of character names. Actually, I know about four character names. But outside of that, I don't know much about One Piece. And I wanted to, start this channel and kind of chronicle different series that I have had interest in checking out before, but never really gotten around to it. And I thought that it'd be pretty cool to have someone who had never read One Piece, never watched One Piece, document their thoughts and experiences as they kind of jump into the series all the way up until the current One Piece manga chapter. And ultimately, once One Piece reaches its conclusion, every single chapter will be on a platform and you'll be able to go through and actually see an honest reaction to it. So I want you guys to kind of think of it like this. Think of it like the reaction videos where you watch somebody watch a trailer and you know what's getting ready to happen in the trailer, but you're watching it to see their experiences and how they react to certain things. And the way I want to do these review styles, I just want to do it like big brother talking to little brother, or best friend talking to best friend about this incredible new series that I've just discovered. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this portion of the video off, and I'm going to come right back to you guys with my initial thoughts to One Piece Chapter 1, which is Romance Dawn. Oh man, I'm regretting not getting into One Piece a lot sooner, man. This was a really good introductory chapter. Like, you got a little bit of world building kind of thrown in there, but you also got very big themes about what it means to actually be a man. You got messages about Bravo and machoism, and you got a lot of stuff, that's kind of showing not every fight is worth it, and as a man, sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. And I really like that, man. I really like what you kind of get out of that. So going all the way back, man. So starting with this, we get the tale of Gold Roger, the king of the pirates. They said he achieved it all: wealth, fame, power. It had all been his. And his final words before his head got cut off was, "You want my treasure? It's right where I left it. It's yours if you can find it, but you got to search the whole world." And as soon as he said this, what ended up happening is it ended up kicking off this great age of the pirates. And I'm guessing this is where what's going on with Luffy and Shanks is taking place. And I'm not sure where Shanks is going, but one of the things he says is that after 2 or 3 voyages, he'll be gone from the village for good. And it turns out that Shanks and his crew have been staying in this village for a little over a year. And so now they're getting to a point where they're getting ready to actually set voyage. And that's where we meet the main character, Luffy, right? And I do know a little bit about Luffy. I knew that, Luffy could stretch his body. And it turns out the reason why he's able to stretch his body is he ate that devil, that fruit of the devil. And he is able to stretch. I think they called it the gum gum fruit. And so I thought that was pretty cool that, we get the main character's powers very early on. And another thing I thought was pretty cool is, Luffy has a lot of guts, man. Like, one of the first things he does after, Shanks and them won't allow him to join in the Shanks crew and everything, is Luffy takes this knife and he just cuts across his cheek with it. And he's trying to kind of show what it means to be a man, what it means to be macho. And that's a theme that you see over and over and over in this chapter so far. Is you just see the author, what's the dude's name? It is Oda. One of the things you see Oda saying over and over is the fact that, being a man doesn't necessarily mean you got to prove you're the toughest guy in the room. Sometimes being tough is standing up when the people who depend on you need you the most. Sometimes being tough means standing up for people when they can't stand up for themselves. And so one of the ways he does this is after you got Shanks just kind of bagging on this dude Luffy, right? Just bagging on him. Shanks is just like, "Oh, you want to have some milk, little kid? Here you go." And Luffy says, "Oh, thank you." And he starts drinking the milk, and then Shanks just starts laughing. He's just like, "What kind of pirate would drink milk? Are you fucking serious right now?" And I like the humor in that, because the rest of these pirates are just drinking alcohol, they're partying, they're eating, they're just acting a fool, right? And when you find out Luffy can't swim, I'm going, "Oh, That's odd. The guy wants to be a pirate and he can't swim. What the actual fuck? That's like, I want to drive a car, but I don't know how to drive. Like, I want to be a race car driver, but I don't know how to get the car out of park. So I mean, that's one of the things I thought was pretty interesting. And then the other thing is how Oda kind of transitions going a little further, where you get this moment where you see Luffy and he's watching Shanks, and Shanks is getting his head just cracked open with a bottle because this guy from the mountain with these bandits and everything, he comes down and he wants some liquor, and Shanks and his crew, they just drank all the liquor up. They drank all the liquor up, and you get to this moment where Shanks could probably knock this dude upside the head. And I mean, he's a pirate captain, so surely, unless he's fodder, surely, Shanks could probably do this guy in. But he takes the hit, and he takes it with a smile on his face, and then he proceeds to try and clean up the bar. And somebody that's worked in the service industry for a little bit, and I can completely appreciate what Shanks is doing right here. And when Shanks is trying to clean it up, the guy that's the mountain bandit, he's like, "Oh, you like to clean," and it's almost like he's saying, like, "Hey, that's a real feminine thing you're doing right there. Like, the women clean, the men make the mess, and we should be on our way." I think that's kind of the things that was kind of being brought up, was a small hint towards gender roles. But the other thing that was pretty interesting about that is, Shanks, after the guy leaves, he's teaching Luffy a lesson without Luffy actually realizing what he's doing. And Shanks, is just like, why should I get upset? There's no reason. And his crew is just laughing like, "Yeah, he got you pretty good, Captain." But what was really interesting about that is after Shanks gets hit on the head, everyone just had this expression on their face like, "Oh shit, it's about to go down." I was expecting like just a straight up brawl. Cause I mean, this is like pirates, like the only thing I know about pirates is like the stuff I saw in the Pirates of the Caribbean trailer. So I'm expecting like some Wild Wild West Royal Rumble type stuff. And it wasn't actually anything like that. But after, Shanks is just like, "Hey man, don't even worry about this. Like, don't even worry about it." The next thing we find out is that Luffy, he ate the devil fruit. And because he ate that fruit, Luffy can no longer swim. And that's, very heartbreaking in a way, because, Shanks just told him like, "Hey, when we come back and maybe in 10 years, I'll give you a tryout and I'll see if you're worthy of kind of being a pirate," right? And that comes after, the people in Shanks' crew is just like, "Yeah, well, too bad, Luffy. We're not giving up our spot for you." And the first mate on Shanks' crew tells him like, "Hey, Shanks is the captain of the pirates. Shanks is responsible for everyone's well-being, and not just himself, but everyone else as well. Every decision he makes directly impacts the people underneath them." And that's what I mean. It kind of goes back to that whole thing of what it means to be a man, what it means to be macho, and men, the responsibility and everything. I like what you see there, and I like how Luffy gets the complete opposite of it. He gets bits and pieces of it, but for most part, he gets the complete opposite. And so when those bandits come back, one of the things they're like, "Oh, well, okay, they don't have fruit juice today. Oh, we're about to drink. We're about to, party up in here." And, Luffy's hearing them. They're talking bad about Shanks and Shanks' crew and everything. And that gets revealed in a flashback, and Luffy just kind of charges. And what ends up happening is they end up taking this guy like into the village square or whatever, and they're just kicking Luffy around and, kind of just knocking some sense into him, if you will. And what's interesting about that is at one point, the mayor is, on his hands and knees begging for him, right? Everyone's too scared to speak up for him. And the mayor's like, "Hey, Luffy's a kid. Leave him alone. Whatever he did, we're sorry." And that's when Shanks just shows up. And the way that he's drawn was just so awesome. So awesome. Shanks shows up, and we actually see this one moment where he's just like, "I wonder what happened." I was looking out there at the docking area, and there was nobody there to greet us. This is what happened. And I'm like, okay, Shanks is probably going to fight. And one of the things he says, and you can tell it really touches Luffy, he says, "Well, I won't let anybody hurt any of my friends. That's not anything I'm going to allow to slide." And it looks like Shanks is about to start fighting, but then you see somebody point a pistol at his head, and Shanks just does like the complete alpha thing, right? Shanks is like, "It's really dangerous to point guns. You want to get that gun out of my face." And what ends up happening is the guy and his crew this big tubby dude pulls out this pistol and just blows the guy's brains all over the street. And I'm like, oh crap, this is wow. Like I wasn't expecting something like this. Like I'm like smiling and everything. I'm reading that guy. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect this. And then the other guy, the first mate, the one who's talking to Luffy and just dropping all this knowledge on him, he actually puts his cigarette out on the faces of one of the people that is charging at him, and then he proceeds to just knock everybody out. And I thought that was pretty interesting to just kind of show the power of Shanks' crew in this manner. And then another thing that I thought was really, really interesting was the fact that after all this happens, you get this one moment where, it looks like Shanks is about to kind of step in. Everyone just kind of runs. And it's funny. The guy who says he's worth 8 million berries, so I guess that's like the One Piece currency system, and he's worth 8 million of them. So that means he's a pretty strong dude, I'm guessing. But, he takes off running and he says, like, yeah, I got this kid in the boat. Nobody would ever expect to look for a bandit out at sea. It's completely genius. And then he proceeds to kick Luffy in the water, and because Luffy can't swim, he's like, help me, help me, help me. Somebody help me. And you can tell he's getting ready to drown. And this huge fish, shark, whatever it is, it comes up and it ends up biting into the ship of the bandit, and it starts to make its way towards Luffy. And then all of a sudden, you see Shanks. He comes in, he gives that fish just this look, right? And the fish automatically just tucks tail, runs, and we find out that Shanks, in the process of saving Luffy, had actually lost his arm. And that's so beautiful, because that just shows, like, when Shanks says he's trying to protect people that he cares about, he's trying to protect his friends, he's willing to literally give up an arm for him. And, I think that's a very important lesson for Luffy to learn, because with Luffy, if he never would have picked that fight, Shanks never would have lost an arm. He never would have been in this situation. And the thing that Luffy's learned is that your actions have consequences. Even if it's not you, they have consequences for somebody around you. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And the other thing that I thought was, pretty interesting is the fact that, Luffy is learning that when it comes to being a man, yeah, you do stand up for what you believe in. If you don't, you'll fall for everything. But there's also a time and a place. And if you choose to stand up at the wrong moment, it can cost you or the people around you. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I just like this whole theme that Oda has been kind of putting in there about how every choice has a reaction, and about how sometimes the strongest guy in the room is the person who chooses not to fight first. Sometimes, you can get around a situation without resorting to violence, which is pretty interesting because, I'm under the impression that One Piece was a battle manga, but, we didn't really just see a battle in this. So this was pretty interesting, man. So, I want to, try something here. I want to do like a question, you guys, chapter question. So what I want to ask you guys is, was there ever really a time that you had an opportunity to fight, or somebody was picking on you or something like that, and instead of fighting, you kind of took the high road? Did you ever have a situation like that? And if you did, how'd that turn out? For me, I've had a few moments where, especially when I was younger, right? Especially when I was a lot younger, I had moments where, some of the older kids, I think I was like in third grade, and I had eighth graders and they're on the bus and beating me up and everything. And part of the reason why I just wasn't trying to fight back was, there was a girl I had a crush on who we had assigned seats on the bus, and we had this really old lady who wouldn't report shit. And I was worried, like, if we start fighting, I was worried I was going to fall on top of her. But at the same time, I didn't want to lose in front of her because I had a crush on her. That's, at the time, it's a simple crush. You want to appear to be super strong. I wanted to be, one of the Power Rangers. So when I did try and fight back, I couldn't really do anything. So I'm trying like the sweeping kicks and everything. I got my ass beat. But, I learned the lesson that Luffy did, because when I tried that sweeping kick, I actually ended up kicking one of my friends. So, I ended up hurting somebody inadvertently, So let's just share it with me. What's your embarrassing story, or what's your moment where you learned something? And also, can you tell me how you got into One Piece? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment and rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, guys.